All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Gabe Andreson. Gabe, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thanks very much. I'm super happy to be here, Kevin.
I'll tell you, I am looking forward to this conversation today. And I'm going to start by giving a shout out to the folks over at the podcast guest platform because that's how you and I met. And I'll tell you, I've met some really amazing guests from those guys over there, and I'm really appreciative of them and the work that they're doing. And so, you know what? Like I said, just want to give them a shout out and honor those guys for the work that they're doing. So, Gabe, we'll just dig right in. We're gonna get into kind of a deep conversation today, but I'm going to start with a nice, simple question to get the ball rolling, and we'll just dive deeper from there. And we'll start with Gabe, what do you do and who do you serve?
So that's a interesting question that has more than one answer.
Okay.
So what do I do? I'm the president and co-founder of a company called Innovus Energy.
Okay.
In a nutshell, we make buildings smarter and more efficient.
All right.
And we're also involved in the energy transition. So we do quite a bit of electric vehicle charging station installations throughout the country.
Oh,
And then also in Massachusetts, specifically the Northeast, there's a heavy initiative converting from fossil fuel heating systems to air source heat pumps. So we do
oh,
that work as well.
very good. How did you get in to doing this? When I was a kid, Gabe, I wanted to be a fireman, and I never did become a fireman. And at the same time, I would have never imagined that I'd be doing what I get to do these days and stuff. And I would imagine that your story is similar. So let's like go back a little ways and what is your backstory? Because I'm sure you got an amazing backstory, and I'd love to hear some of it.
Sure, I can give you a little bit of it. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, so, I was a pretty average high school student in terms of my grades, though I'm definitely not an average person. And went to Kansas City for lack of, because the opportunity presented itself and I didn't know what else to do. I was not interested in going to college because, when it comes to academics, I'd rather not study.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think John Maxwell talks about that. So shout out to him for giving me permission to not like studies.
Well, and it's long been said that, the entrepreneurs are typically the C kind of students, and the
Yeah.
A students a lot of times end up going to work for the entrepreneur C students.
Well,
It's
I'm not going to say anything about that. So anyhow, I went down to Kansas City to actually go Bible school.
Okay.
I've been involved in faith for my whole life. My parents were both ministers, planted a church in Kingston, Massachusetts. They call us the frozen chosen up here in Massachusetts. It's not a very faith forward community. At least it wasn't back then. It is much more so now.
Okay.
Um, about 6 months into Bible school, I realized that study thing that I just mentioned to
Uh-huh.
you
Uh-huh.
applies to every aspect of study. Although maybe there was some variations that weren't impacted in different aspects of life. However, I kind of came to this moment where I realized I really don't like to study the Bible in this way.
Uh-huh.
And so I left that and started waiting tables and then going to school full time, but I was supporting myself. So I would do community college at Longview Community College in Kansas, I believe. Or no, that's actually Missouri. And then I would do night classes also at Rockhurst College in Kansas City. And I got through 2 years of that and met my first wife. We married very quickly and moved back to Massachusetts. And so I was waiting tables. And probably a year into that, I really thought, as far as long term, like the money is really good now, but it's inconsistent, and I'd like to have a day job um, that provided some stability rather than just waiting tables, and would also allow me to have a relationship with my kids, which hadn't been born yet, but I was sort of thinking down the road. So I started working in the light bulb industry.
Okay.
And I'm
Okay.
not talking manufacturing. I was a salesperson and I would go door to door selling light bulbs to businesses.
Okay.
And actually, I found some passion there. I think for the first 3 years, I made about $17,000 a year. And my wife at the time was like, she was supportive, but I think she was also wondering, like, what are you doing? We're not making money here. And, she got pregnant, and then the company I was working for closed, and I had learned a thing or two about sales. So I showed up at a competitor's door and negotiated, $50,000 salary plus medical and,
Well, that's a little bit of an
mileage
upgrade from the
home.
17.
Yeah, yeah. We like basically tripled our income
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like immediately. Um, and what happened at that time was there was the government passed a law requiring fluorescent light bulb manufacturers to reduce the wattage of their standard light bulbs.
Okay.
And that sort of was the advent of the energy efficiency industry.
Oh,
And ironically, I ended up meeting with a lobbyist probably 4 years ago who was actually working for President Obama. And he coined the energy efficiency business. He was the one that came up with that rule.
okay. Oh,
From a governmental perspective, I thought that was really ironic that I was able to meet him.
yeah.
Um, then what happened is that whole industry opened up
Okay.
wide open. And I went from selling light bulbs to selling energy efficiency as a contractor, design build. And so I was working for a company called Bluestone Energy Services, run by a great couple, Peter and Roberta Fairbanks. And that was sort of my real accelerator into energy efficiency.
Okay.
And ended up being a big part of the growth of that business. Kind of wrote it up, and then they sold, and things got a little funny. And so I ended up going to work for a competitor. I had been there for 9 years.
Okay.
Then, went to a competitor. They hired me to help get them acquired, and so I had learned some things in the process at Bluestone that I applied to this other company, and they
Uh-huh.
got acquired in like 3 years. Um, then the company that acquired that competitor that I was working for basically purchased about five different companies and merged them all together, and that became a little messy.
Okay.
So probably 2 years post acquisition, somebody that I was working closely with at that company and I left and founded our own business, and that was in 2019.
Okay. Okay.
And since 2019, we're now Innovis is like 18 or 19 people strong. We've worked in 35 different states,
Wow.
and it's been a really wonderful experience. um, yeah, growing a company and then seeing the impact of healthy business, not just on customers, but on the people that work with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've really shifted towards developing leaders, and that's how we're scaling as a business.
Okay. Okay. Very. What a great. This is why I love talking with entrepreneurs. Is right here. I mean, what an awesome backstory that is and stuff. And so what inspires you most about the work you do and the impact that you guys get to make?
Sure. So I kind of mentioned it, but that's just one piece. And so um, I don't know, maybe it was 6 months ago. There's been several iterations of me developing as a human, developing
Uh-huh.
as a leader, developing as a a follower of Jesus. There's all sorts of interwoven threads in the
Yeah.
story of my life. And um, I would have to say the reason that I'm here is to help people by giving them tools professionally, spiritually, and relationally early enough to really impact the trajectory of their lives.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
that's like a personal mission statement.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I approach every day asking and looking for who I can encourage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I don't do that, then I move towards the drift.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
drift is very comfortable, but I'll often be reminded that I'm off mission when I find myself getting really irritated and irritable. And then I go, oh, that's not who I'm designed to be. I need to
Uh-huh.
look for somebody to encourage. How are you doing today?
Very cool.
Yeah,
It's interesting. I'm with you in so many ways, and I love talking with entrepreneurs, and so of course hosting this podcast for the last 4+ years and continuing to host it is something that just feeds my soul too.
yeah, I bet it does.
And we attract an amazingly high percentage of Christians and faith-based entrepreneurs. If I had to put a really close guess to it, it's between like 75-80%.
Wow, we're
It's
not so
very
bad.
not too bad. And
We're
like,
not so bad.
it just happens.
Yeah,
And it's really cool the way that happens. And like you, it's like, I mean, I get to spend my day, all the work during the work week talking with entrepreneurs. And if I couldn't do that, I would totally, I mean, I could see I would get like edgy, if I, because it feeds me so much. I love doing it.
yeah.
And so that is awesome. That is awesome. Well, so you've got to this point. Well, no, I don't want to ask that question. I want to ask a different question. So what are some examples of results that you've helped clients get that you're just incredibly proud of? And you don't have to name names. You can if you want, totally your call and stuff, but just give us an example of the kind of results that you guys have helped get.
We've been working in a community in Massachusetts for about 13 years
Okay.
and have been responsible for saving them probably 4 million kilowatt hours.
Okay.
Um, you know, it's a very large number.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about savings is if you put in good equipment, the savings continues to accrue,
Okay.
doesn't go
Okay.
away.
Yeah.
And, because we've done great work for them, they just invite us back in, invite us back in, invite us back in. So we're like doing, generation three of improvements in their buildings. And currently they're beholden to what's known as a closed protocol energy management system, in which they are really under lock and key, kind of captive to a specific system and vendor. And it's not that the vendor is bad. Um, you know, most capitalists would jump into that with lots of gusto if they could own a relationship that they owned and nobody else could touch.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Um, but what that has created is a system in which there's no one of the purposes of capitalism is a free market.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you have a closed building management system that you only have one vendor that is authorized to work on your equipment,
Yeah.
well, you're paying a lot more for that work than you would be if it was an open free market. So,
Sure.
sort of the next crest of the mountain to, us helping them get to the next level of energy efficiency is sort of getting them away from a closed system so that not just a Novus can work there, but several other vendors could compete for business
Yeah.
and provide
Yeah.
for them. So, yeah,
Well, then in a closed system like that, it seems to me, you got one vendor that they're the ones, and so like they don't have any motivation to like just be on top of things and provide the best possible service, because they're like, ain't nobody gonna take our job.
yeah. I mean, that definitely can be an equation, where there is no incentive to do better. However, I know the vendor and they do a good job for the community. It's just
That's great.
there's something to be said. Like if they were to open up the kimono a little bit and talk about margins, then I think there might be an uncomfortable conversation.
Okay. Okay.
Because it just if you're the only one in town that can do it, then yeah, that leads to, you know,
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you've got to this place right here. So from your current vantage point, what's your vision for the company going forward, Gabe?
Yeah, so I'll later on in the podcast I'll talk about some influencers in my life.
Okay.
Um, One of the things that they gave me was a in like helping me build the infrastructure of Innovus Energy and what or perhaps the foundation. And what's integral to the foundation of a growing healthy business is having a mission statement, which I gave you my personal mission statement, not my business mission statement. Core values that define who you are in the marketplace and um, you know, in the community that you serve, the communities that you serve. And finally, there's this other thing that requires continual like going back to chisel it. But that's a vision. So where are we going? Innovus is going to be a nine-figure business um, in probably 3 years, and we'll have locations, probably five locations by then. Right now we have two.
Okay.
But opening up some other markets. I just love Denver, and I'd love to have an office in Denver. Um, there's a couple other places that I think will be, but yeah, that's the vision of the business.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, so now that we've got a little bit of context set here, I want to switch gears a little bit. I do want to start talking about the relationship side of all of this. And so, have you ever been introduced, Gabe, to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
100%.
Okay. Okay.
And I would say this, that the people that have influenced me um, to the degree that they have, which is kind of in my mission statement, changed the trajectory of my life.
Mhm.
There's a few of them.
Okay.
And I believe not just, the first one that I'll share, um, I was hungry, but I wasn't necessarily like looking for him.
Mhm.
But the other three, I was looking for them and I feel like they were sent.
Okay. Okay.
Like that's the depth of the impact
Yeah.
that each of these people has had on me. So the first person that really, really impacted me, changed the trajectory of my life, is a man by the name of James Gall.
Okay.
He's a minister that has a very unique ministry, has gone across the world, and he's written several books, most of which revolve around the topic of prayer and intercession. So on a
Okay.
different level, and he's definitely different level. He really impacted me and was one of the primary reasons I moved to Kansas City because he was in Kansas City. So
Oh,
he spent some time with me and mentored me in certain areas of my life. And I'll forever be thankful for his impact on me, which continues.
Very good. Very
The second person is much more current,
good.
a man by the name of Ed Rush.
Okay.
And Ed is based in San Diego. He's tied into faith, but his message is really about business and
Is Ed,
integrating.
Ed used to be a pilot?
Yes,
I know Ed.
you know Ed.
Small
Isn't that
world.
funny? Yeah, Ed really changed my life. Um, what he primarily did for me and for Anovus and for my business partner, um, he opened up an idea that God wanted to bless me and my business beyond my expectations. And because I grew up as a son of a couple ministers, money was always a problem.
Okay. Okay.
And I sort of adopted, unconsciously, I adopted a lack mindset.
Okay.
And Ed really, really helped me unwind that. Um, and after I unwound it, like things got explosively good. Like we went from 7 million in revenue to like, I don't know, 16 to 20 to 34.
Some serious growth.
Very, very significant growth.
Yeah.
Revenue per employee in the $2 million range.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like those are numbers that aren't really out there.
Yeah.
Um, and I credit obviously Holy Spirit, but Ed is the one that got me thinking much, much bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, he's in my book. Um, you know, he's a great person that really has impacted me.
Yeah.
I do have to say this, that my expectation of a mentor was not what he was.
Okay.
So I had
Okay.
to let go of my expectations in order to get the lessons that I was supposed to get.
So let's dig a little deeper into that, Gabe. So what kind of expectations did you have that you had to let go of?
I thought that mentorship would flow out of friendship,
Okay.
and he's different than that. It's not that he's not friendly, and it's not necessarily that he's not a friend, but he's not the kind of friend that I thought he would be,
Okay.
where he
Okay.
doesn't chum around.
Uh-huh.
It's not about hanging out. Everything is purpose driven.
Mhm.
And, I had to kind of let go of, well, he doesn't like me the way I want to be liked. He doesn't want to chum around with me. Like he always wants to just talk about like da da da, da and then he'll disappear.
Mhm. Mhm.
Kind of like Gandalf. So yeah, there's no way to get what we need to get from different people if we don't let go of what we think the package should look like.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
That's really good insight right there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's something that I had to kind of grind on. I had to really chew on that and, you know, wow, what a great person
Yeah.
that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then as far as business goes, we were with Ed for a year and a half ish, 2 years, something like that. But
Okay.
the real impact with Ed was upfront. It was all like compressed into like the 6 months. I read his book and I started doing the disciplines of the book, and really engaging my faith, my relationship with Jesus, and my business, like all, and like it just got really explosive. Um, as far as the next step for us as a business, we actually ended up hiring um, Cardone Ventures.
Okay. Okay.
And again, to learn, you have to let go of what things should or shouldn't look like.
Mhm, mhm.
And, there's a lot of things about Cardone Ventures that are amazing. There's a lot of things about Cardone Ventures that just drove me bananas. Um, you know, Brandon Dawson and his wife Natalie are they're world changers in terms of their paradigms. And Natalie's book Teamwork is so valuable on how to grow a healthy business.
Okay.
There are very clear steps that she lays out because of her experience in growing. I think that their company now is like $250 million business or something like that. And she was just categorical in how she puts business together. And I never had gotten a manual like that before.
Okay.
And that's what the book is. It's like a manual. Like you want to scale your business, you need to do X, Y, Z, and then, how to deal with conflict in the office, like boom. Um, how to handle comp plans, boom. Like it's all in there. And her husband, Brandon, he has an amazing story. In one of the conferences, I guess, for lack of a better term, that he was teaching at, it's an interactive. They like to get interactive.
Okay.
And he talked about practicing visualization. And I think a lot of the church is afraid of visualization because it could be a new age practice. And I couldn't disagree more. And I believe that my perspective on visualization, which Ed, by the way, endorses, is based in scripture and it's not new age and it positions us in a way to really receive. Um, so Brandon, he's speaking, he talks about his visualization, and I had to like, hey, hang on. Did I catch you correctly? Are you saying like this is something that you practice on a regular basis? And he said, yeah, in the back of my jet, I actually have a mattress, and the mattress is not for me to go back and sleep. He goes, I go back there and people know not to interrupt me. And I just visualize great outcomes for the meetings that I'm going to be taking part in.
Mhm.
And he's got like story after story of business deals that appeared to be going in the wrong direction that turned around and they were able to work through whatever they needed to work through. And I think part of that is found in visualization. And I'm very careful. I'm not visualizing like bad things. I'm visualizing
Yes.
great outcomes
Mhm.
and unpacking those. And it's really funny. I was watching YouTube last week. Occasionally, I'll take breaks on Saturdays. One day during the weekend, I'll put my feet up and just blah. And a story came up about a young guy who was sick with leukemia, but because he was afraid to tell his parents, he kept delaying, delaying, delaying as a 10 or 14-year-old kid. And they finally brought him to the doctor, and the doctor's like, it's too late. You're, we can't really treat you. And sure enough, he heard a little voice in his head said he doesn't have the last word. And he ended up getting healed of leukemia. But he talked about spontaneously, a little 14-year-old kid, no teaching on this or whatever. He said, I'd pray to God to heal my body, and then I would just start to visualize that I didn't have this anymore and what my life looked like 5 or 6 years from now. And that was just another like confirmation to me that, yeah, this is actually really good stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they impacted me in that way. And they also really helped a novice to lay processes and procedures into our business that allow it to grow so that my business partner and I don't need to be there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That is, I know you got one other person I think you want to honor, but I want to, that what you were just talking about, the visualization, I mean, I first heard of that probably, well, it was when Michael Phelps, the swimmer, was in the Olympics back in like '04, '05 sometime. And one of my mentors was a guy who was a big proponent of psycho-cybernetics and stuff. And he talked about visualization all the time,
mm,
And I remember seeing an interview with Michael Phelps talking about how he
wow.
would visualize and see himself winning,
Yep.
and so I mean, heck, I I talk about that stuff all the time. I mean, I know for about the last 8, 9 months, I well, so a couple, man, let me see, has it been a couple of years already? Not maybe not quite 2 years. Um, I made the first introduction where these two friends of mine that I introduced, man, they just were such an alignment with each other. And in a 4 month period, they created an additional $1.2 million in revenue for one of my friends' companies and stuff, doing the stuff they did together. And I was catching up with another friend of mine, and we were in person, and he was like asking, we hadn't spoken in a couple of years, and he was just asking me, he's like, what's been going on in your world? And of course that was top of mind because it had just recently happened. And then so I tell him about it, and then he asked me, he's like, well, Kev, he's like, now from this new vantage point, which now I always like asking this question of people too. He's like, now from this vantage point, after having that experience, what do you see going forward from here? And I'm like, well, Gio, I said, I can totally see me making, introductions and connect people that lead to, 5 million, 10 million. And he kind of chuckles and he's like, Kev, he's like, you are going to be making introductions so much bigger than that, you know. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, you know what? He's totally
Yeah.
right. And so I've been putting it out there now that, like, I'm moving towards being able to make 8 and 9 figure impact.
Yeah.
And now we are attract. I mean, we just had a few months ago our first $1 billion founder join my inner circle and stuff. And
That.
then last week I was having this conversation with a guy, and he's like, Kevin, he's like, I don't normally share this with people, but in this setting, I'm gonna let you know right now because I want you to know you're on the track. He's like, we're a $9 billion company, and I'm just like, wow.
Right.
And so, and, and so
Just a
there's
number.
something to this visualization thing, and just saying and just seeing it and just like, and it's like, and it's like you said, it's like, it has nothing to do with the dollar figure at all for me. It's like, I just want to make my biggest possible impact. I love doing what I do.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm apologizing. I just thought that was a great thing to add to what you were already sharing.
No, it's great.
So,
It's alignment right there.
yeah, yeah. So continue on.
Well, I said four people, and so there they are.
Okay, okay,
James
okay,
Gall, Ed Rush, Natalie Dawson, Brandon Dawson.
okay, okay, okay.
And there's probably going to be some more.
Yeah. Well, I'm imagining that there will be as you keep
Yeah.
moving forward. You bet there will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
there's this whole other part of my life that um is it'll give you whiplash. So in around 2010, 2011, in that time frame, my marriage was disintegrating,
Okay. Okay.
and I didn't really have a capacity to understand that my marriage was disintegrating because all of my future, everything was in my mind was tied to my ex-spouse. And um, first and foremost, understand, uh, you know, I I've had to really dive into kind of forgiving myself for being not a great husband. And there wasn't infidelity, but it was really basic. I didn't know how to listen, and I didn't give her the space to talk. And um, man, it was pretty simple, but instead of bending into her needs and what she was looking for, that anybody should be looking for in a spouse, I hardened, you know, no, 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 you're wrong, I'm right. And until ultimately she's like, I can't be here. And it was absolutely devastating for me. And it was devastating for the kids. And it was the worst experience of my life. And I've significantly grown as a result of it. Um, but during that time of my life, I started having panic attacks because I guess because I felt really out of control. Uh, are we really in control anyways?
Yeah, right.
So, I'm having all this like business success and everything, and then my world is falling apart on the inside.
Yeah.
And I was on a plane to South Carolina for a business trip, and then I had my first panic attack, and I didn't know what it was. Um, I just knew I thought I was going to die, and I was sweating profusely, and my heart was pounding out of my chest.
Wow.
And that opened a season of life where I dealt with acute anxiety for an extended period of time. And out of that experience, I have learned how to disempower anxiety, but more importantly, like how to be a connected person versus a compartmentalized person.
Okay.
And that in and of itself was a big path out of anxiety. But so I wrote a book about it, and it's called Unanxious: Learning to Calm Your Mind in an Anxiety-Filled World. And in the book, I share my experience. And then I teach tools that people can implement to get out from underneath the paralyzing feeling of anxiety. So,
Okay. Okay.
um, yeah. So
So,
I'm like developing public speaking, and, I've done some coaching.
okay.
Um, and yeah, I really like public speaking. Like it opens up something to me that doesn't open anywhere else where I connect, get into like flow state. It's really, really pretty significant actually. So
Yeah. So, Gabe, who's the book for? Is it written specifically for entrepreneurs, or who's going
no,
to
it's
benefit?
written at a very uh, basic level.
Okay.
It's like super easy to read.
Okay.
And the audience literally is anybody that wrestles with anxiety. And certainly
Well, that
I
extends way
talk about
beyond just entrepreneurs.
exactly. It's not just entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I do
Yeah.
talk about my business in the book. I talk about productivity and I talk about, yeah, lots of things in there.
Yeah.
So it's for everybody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I know for my audience, they are going to be like pretty much everybody in my audience is, entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, and
I'm one of
but
those.
there's a whole lot of them that definitely do deal with anxiety,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so, and yeah, yeah. Well, for anyone who might be listening to this and just kind of thinking to themselves, man, Kev, I really like Gabe. I love who he is. I love how he shows up, and maybe just some of the stuff that you've shared today is causing them to think like, man, I'd like to just reach out and find out more about the work that they're doing, and maybe he might be able to help me out, or maybe they're thinking of somebody else that they like, man, I want to connect my friend with Gabe.
Yeah.
Any websites, any resources we can share with folks?
Yeah, yeah. So there'll be a link to my website there,
Yes.
gabeandreson.com, and I have a relatively nice following on LinkedIn. I do content on LinkedIn and YouTube,
Okay.
Facebook. I do have a Facebook page that's my author page.
Okay.
Um, so there's and I'm pretty accessible. So
Okay.
yeah, if somebody's interested in having me do some public speaking or wants to know more about the book or my story, it's easy to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Okay. And like I said, we'll have the links down below there. So just make it nice and easy for you if you want to check anything out there. Gabe, any last thing that you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
Life is designed to be better than we expect.
Amen. Amen.
And the goal is not happiness. The goal is to exceed our potential. Just think about that.
Yeah. 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 The goal is not happiness, it is to exceed our potential. I love that. I
That's
love
right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's powerful right there. Well, what a great way to end the conversation. Gabe, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. You're very natural, and you're operating in something that you're supposed to be operating in, and that's very, very clear. And
Yeah,
I hope that our paths will cross at some point in the future.
for sure. For sure. I feel the same way. Well, thanks again, Gabe.